up. And if you missed it last night, good game on Monday Night Football, or at least close game, 1-point game going into the fourth quarter. Cowboys up 16-15 on the Giants. And then Dak Prescott to Michael Gallup. How about the athletic play?
Incredible play by Gallup on the sideline to stay in bounds, leap over to the defender, and get that left foot in, falling into the end zone.
So that made it 23-15. Giants get the ball 1st and 10. It's Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, go.
Should have gotten more touches to Saquon as many times as possible. Out in the open field, incredible vision, sudden change in speed downfield. Big play for this Giants offense.
65-yard gain, but the theme of the night, it leads to a field goal. The Giants could not cash in for touchdowns, and in the end, that cost them the game. 8 minutes to play on a 3rd and 12. Prescott, Amari Cooper, say goodnight, Irene. That's a 45-yard touchdown. It's a 30-18 game. The Cowboys would tack on a late, comparatively meaningless defensive touchdown and win 37-18. Again, the point to be made here, the final score not indicative of the game itself. And we spent some time talking about how underwhelming the Cowboys were. And that just is what it is. At the end of the day, you win a football game, you don't frown on it. But a conversation that sort of came up in our pre-show meeting this morning that we wanted to bring to you is about quarterback development. So you look at Pat Shurmur and Daniel Jones. Is he the right guy to develop them long term? Let me quickly ask you, Dan, to set up the conversation. Depending on how the Giants season goes, would you expect, and do you believe they expect, that Pat Shurmur will be their head coach next season?
I think the key to that question is your first question. They have to say, first of all, is this the right guy to shepherd the development of this young quarterback that we picked number 6 overall? If the answer is no, then you can see them making a change, especially given the record. That gives them the opportunity to do it. If the answer is yes, then he gets to stay and continue to develop the quarterback.
Which perfectly sets up the topic, because that is probably the absolute wrong way to make this decision. If there's one thing we've seen in the NFL, it is that they have started hiring these quarterback whisperers, these quarterback gurus to be their head coaches, and almost without exception, it has been a dismal failure. See Cleveland, see the Jets, see Dirk Cutter in Tampa Bay, and see Matt Nagy right now in Chicago. You hire these guys to just coach your quarterback, and somehow the rest of the football team falls apart.
Let me give you a scenario, G. And look, I remember going through this process with Ed Orgeron at LSU, and everybody wanted Tom Herman. They wanted to hire Ryan Day. They wanted a bunch of guys that were hot names. And I was able to go to practice and see how players responded to Ed Orgeron. And I said, this is the head coach for LSU. Now, whether he can go to a board and write out this elaborate display of X's and O's, I don't know that. But I know every one of those players, when he started talking and when he pushed them, they wanted to play for him.
Look what's happening in Baltimore. That's the perfect example. They didn't go out and hire some new offensive guru to be their head coach because they wanted to put in something creative for Lamar Jackson. They have an excellent head coach. They have a guy who is just sitting in the quarterback room working with the quarterback all the time, which Adam Gase and Freddie Kitchens and Matt Nagy don't have time to do.
I think that the thing that Baltimore, and I would say Buffalo as well with Josh Allen, like Josh Allen's playing good, consistent football for that team, is they've got head coaches, right? And we often talk about leadership. Leadership is not just about leading. It's also about making everybody better. And when you have just a singular head coach, he's the one that can make everyone better. And then you have position coaches or offensive coordinators that can solely focus on leading just that quarterback, right? When you hire these coaches, and listen, it has worked at times, but when you hire these coaches that have to lead the quarterback and have to lead the offense and lead the football team, they're incapable of making everyone better, and we're seeing that in the NFL.
They hire 6, 7, 8 new head coaches every single year in the NFL, and what you've heard the last couple of years during that process is people saying the pipeline is drying up, right? All these guys have been sort of over-promoted, quarterback coach to head coach. He washes out in a year or two. Now you go down the line. Get you a head coach. Get yourself a John Harbaugh, a Mike Tomlin. Sean McVay is not a success in Los Angeles because he fixed Jared Goff. He's a success in Los Angeles because he runs the building and everybody respects him and he has that ability. Everyone who ever worked for him is not automatically going to bring that.
That's the point, is that we went through a phase there where anyone who had Sean McVay's number in their contacts got a head coaching job in the league. And Swagoo, not everyone is able to do what he's doing.
Gee, it's ironic that a defensive coach has been dominating the NFL for the last 10 to 12 years in Bill Belichick. Delegate these guys and put them in situations that Greg Roman in Baltimore, he said, Lamar, I'm here with you every day. this is what we gonna do. What do you like to do? You, like to Dan's point, you can't do that as a head coach. It's too many things going on. And when you hire these guys, there's a guy right now in Dallas who should be a head coach, Chris Richaed. Chris Richaed should be a head coach somewhere next year, because every time I've seen players interact with Chris Richaed, they want to run through a brick wall.
But the guy that everyone was talking about was the offensive coordinator, Boy Wonder, who has Rex called.
Two things real quickly, because I was with Sean McVay when he came in as the quarterback guru. He can talk football on both sides. That immediately gained respect from the defense, because I think as a defender, when you see this guru offensive guy get hired, you automatically would think, well, he only cares if the quarterback plays well. And that's why the leadership of that role is so paramount.
Listen, this is a very important conversation, and anyone who is watching Sam Darnold play right now understands why. Much more football as we go. Meanwhile, Elle, let's go to the hoop.
Yeah, let's run the floor with Richaed Jefferson, and we're going to start with Kyrie Irving, who dropped 39 points for the Nets. They beat the Pelicans. Can he turn this team solely into a contender?
No, he cannot.
Okay.
You know who else can?
Who?
Kevin Durant.
Right.
He had him eventually, but Kyrie is playing the best basketball of his career. He is doing everything he possibly can for this team, but he's not going to be alone turning them into a contender anytime soon.
How about the Warriors, who got just their second win of the season? They beat the Blazers, and they did it without Draymond Green and D'Angelo Russell, and of course, there was no Clay and there was no Steph either. Is there reason for hope here?
No. This was actually disappointing. This is a game that you wanted to lose, right? Because then you're going to be closer to a high-level lottery pick. So even though this was great for morale, their final goal, and they are going to be a lottery team this year, that should be your goal. So this just took them a step away from being a higher pick.
Speaking of a morale booster, we had the Sixers lose their first game of the season to the Suns. Devin Booker put up 40. Is the headline here that the Sixers have an issue, or that the Suns are just balling out? No one's knowing it.
The Suns are balling out. They started the season out on fire. They've beaten the Clippers. They are playing very, very good basketball. Devin Booker is making that jump that we've wanted to see. Those numbers translate into wins, and they're starting to translate into wins right now.
Wouldn't exactly accuse the Rockets of balling out, but James Harden did have a big game for them last night, put up 44 points, and they beat the Grizzlies 107-100. Russell Westbrook sat out with rest. What are your impressions early on the Rockets so far?
They're going to be fun to watch. They're going to have a lot of individual performances, and then come April, maybe mid-April, we'll be done talking about them. Until they play defense, that's going to be the one issue, and we've said this for year after year after year, and they still haven't, and they've still been in the exact same spot.
And I want to expound here a little bit, RJ, on specifically what's facing the Rockets, because this was a duo that was among the best that we were going to see, but there was a lot of questions as to how this would work. Minus 46 for Russell Westbrook when they played the Heat. And it was, you could call it the Miami flu or whatever you want to call it, but it was bad. And James Harden was better when he wasn't playing. It seems like they've got a bit of a split personality. They're two different teams depending on who's dominating the floor. Like, what's the key issue here?
Well, I think the key issue is just really their overall play. And you look at Russell Westbrook. Now, he's had Kevin Durant, and they had some success. He had Paul George, never got out of the first round with the 2 years of having Paul George. I really just don't know if these players and the style of game that they want to play is conducive with winning at a high level. Ultimately, if you have these two players, the only thing you should be talking about is championship, right? You should be talking about championship, and they have talent around them. But for some reason, it's not translating. They gave up 150 points to the Wizards, right? And one by one, like, these are not things that are going to be, when you look at the end of the season, is this team a championship contender? The answer is no, because you see these performances.
Trying to win games at 159 points. I would also say, also concerning Mike D'Antoni admitting that the effort's not there. And 6 games into the season, you want to talk about chemistry and scheme and those things, but effort already being an issue, that's a problem. RJ is never a problem, and he's sticking around here on Get Up. Tomorrow night on ESPN, our NBA doubleheader. We will see Harden and Westbrook leading the Rockets against the Warriors, followed by a superstar showdown in LA. Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers hosting Giannis and the Bucks. Our coverage tips with Stephen A's pregame Sports Center at 7 Eastern on ESPN, and as always, take it with you because it's on the ESPN app. Coming up here on Get Up, the Jets are going nowhere fast, but their quarterback thinks he's getting better under Adam Gase. Excuse me? We're going to talk about that straight ahead. Plus, with Zion gone, who are the next big stars in college basketball? Jay Billis is in the building. He'll discuss that when we return. But first, a little sneaky himbo time. And this one is Marcus Spears-centric. You ready? LSU Bama week. Who was the last LSU quarterback to win an NFL game? We had to dig deep in the annals for this one, and you'll have the answer.